You know, when Harvey hit and it really affected our city and it really challenged Houstonians and other parts of this region, we got a strange call to come pick up a car. The vehicle was only a few miles away, literally maybe a mile and a half away, right there in an adjacent community to the shop. So we go pick up this car, and it's like a minefield. You have to walk and travel through all kinds of debris just to get there. Homes are destroyed. A real tomb-like environment, just a real difficult, sad environment to go in, where a lot of things have metaphorically and in certain places things have died literally. But we went and picked up a 36 Ford. So we go pick up that 36 Ford during that time, and I look at Miss Pam's face as her home is destroyed and many other things. But boy, she has a soft place in her heart for this car. This car has been with her for some period of time. You go fuller into the story, and you see that this is the car that her dad gave us. There's something powerful, not simply about the 36 Ford, but there's something powerful about the connection that that car owner and her dad both share through that car. You know, there's a story that we're going to look at today in John chapter 11, and it's a story that talks about disaster, a story that deals with trouble and challenges and turmoil. But there's a father that shows up. There's a loving dad that is there on the scene. And so here it is. This son has the most difficult challenge in his life. The challenge for the son is so difficult, the son can't even help himself. Well, those of you who've been studying with us, you know we've been doing the 7 signs in John. This is the 7th sign. And the 7th sign is the story of Lazarus. And remember, the first 3 signs teach us how we get saved. And then the last 4 signs teach us the benefit of salvation. Well, this last sign is a story about death. And now the Cliff Notes version is the story ends in life. And so one of the greatest benefits, one of the greatest promises that God gives us when we're in right relationship with him, it's the gift of life. You know, Jesus said in John 10:10, that second part of that, he says, I've come that they might have life and have that life more abundantly. There's nothing like the Father God in our lives. There's nothing like Jesus and his presence in our lives. And he's an ever-present presence in our lives. There's a story about a little boy. So there was a terrible blizzard, terrible storm, and there was a birthday party planned. Terrible storm, and little boy's like, I want to go to this birthday party. Everybody's gonna be there. It's gonna be fun. This is my best friend. His dad says, son, there was a blizzard, and there's still it's still a little wet out there, and it's still some much snow on the ground. The boy didn't have to go, but down the road. But still, why do it? So the boy said, Dad, can I please go? So Dad said, sure. Why don't you can go, you button up real good, put your mittens on, and go to you can walk yourself down, go to the birthday party. So little boy goes down the road in the cold, and he goes to the birthday party. And when he gets to the door, there's a knock on the door. He knocks on the door. The parents answer, and they say, hello, Mr. Rogers. And the man turns around, the little boy turns around, and he sees his father walking back home. You know, sometimes it seems like God is not there with us, but I want you to know God is always there with you. You're never alone. And in this story today, in this lesson today, I mean, it seems like Lazarus is alone. Certainly he has loved ones that care about him, but as far as being in the tomb, being in that environment, being in that space, being in that condition, being in that situation, I mean, he seems all alone to me. Seems like there's no God, there's no presence, but then here comes Jesus. And this is where we pick up in the story. We pick up here in John chapter 11. We'll pick up in verse 34. Wonderful portion of scripture. And that shortest verse in the Bible is John verse John verse 35, which is the shortest verse in the Bible. And John verse 35 talks about Jesus wept. But prior to him weeping, the Bible illustrates and talks about these words from Jesus as it pertains to Lazarus. Remember, we're talking about life. We're talking about possibility, power. We're talking about promise. We're talking about faith. We're saying that you can do all things that God has placed upon your heart through the power of him working in your life. So this story of Lazarus, and we're talking about love today. We're talking about a father's love. We're talking about boundless father's love. And there are many of us that are celebrating out there, a lot of great men. I just salute you today. I applaud you today. And thank you for being involved in your child's life. My father left me at a very early age. But there's so many other men really high on that order. My Uncle Bobby was very presence in my life. I mean, I played football, I played baseball, I played basketball. My mama didn't take me to one game, and she didn't take me to one practice. But my Uncle Bobby did. He came and picked me up. He picked me up, put me on the team. I don't even think my mama registered me. I don't think she paid any fees. Now, I don't know. But my Uncle Bobby made sure I was on the team, made sure I played baseball and basketball and things of that nature. I can recall those practices and just being in his presence and just him investing in our lives. And that's what we salute today. We salute the ever-presence of loving men in the lives of children. And so we salute that. And I want you to know, maybe your father's not there, or maybe you feel alone in many ways of life right now. I just want you to know that God is there. I want you to know that God cares. I want you to know that God is intimately involved in the affairs of his people. I want you to know at this day and at this time that Jesus is an ever-present help in time of trouble, in time of danger. I just want you to know God is there. And in this story, this guy seems like he's alone. But let's get right into the verse. John chapter 11. And let's look at verse 34 of John's gospel. I'm in John 11, and I'm going to look at verse 34. Look at what it says. And said, where have you laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. And 35 talks about Jesus weeping. So here it is. He's in the tomb. He's been there now for multiple days. He's been there for so long. Rigor mortis is setting in. His body is beginning to stink and decay, and clearly death is apparent. Death is ruling, and there is absolutely no life in his body. So I don't know what may be going on in your life. I don't know the situation that's going on in your finances, but it may feel like there's no life in the area of your finances. When I look at COVID-19 casualties as it pertains to this economy and businesses, you're talking about thriving, vibrant businesses that have just shut up their doors because COVID-19 took them from X to zero. And it's pretty hard to bounce back from zero. And so, but I want you to know that I know someone who can revive you economically. And so that is Jesus. And we look in this story, Jesus says, take me where Jesus is. Today I'm going to talk about tomb love. Now we've heard of womb love. Womb love is the love, that nurturing, caring, intimate, agape love of a mother. But I want to talk about tomb love, and I want to talk about the power of tomb love and how tomb love can change your life. And so when we talk about tomb love and we discuss the power of tomb love, what I want you to know is that it's different from womb love. And I'm not just trying to rhyme just to rhyme. It's a different type of love. Now, when we start talking about love, love is, in many individuals' eyes, is such a feel-good term. It is such an emotional term when love is bigger than that. And love is not even an emotion. I believe love is a choice. And so the choice of womb love, just like the choice of tomb love, it's a powerful choice. But I believe only a father will choose tomb love. I want you to hear this. And that's what I'm celebrating today. I'm celebrating those dads. I'm celebrating those guys. I'm celebrating those men. I'm celebrating those fathers, those papas. I'm celebrating those granddads. I'm celebrating those uncles. I'm celebrating these individuals who have made the choice to go in the tomb and allow the love for the recipient to be on display. And that's what we see on this lesson. Jesus says, where is Lazarus? Where did you place him? Where is he resting at this moment? And they said he's in the tomb. And what the tomb represents here, it represents a forgotten place. What the tomb represents here, it represents an environment where there is no hope. It represents an environment where there is no life. It represents an environment where possibility does not live. It represents an environment where despair is the order of the day. It represents an environment where depression is the norm. It represents an environment where you so broke and busted and disgusted ain't got a dollar. I mean, it represents those type of low places, those type of environments. It represents being in an abusive, being in a emotionally hard relationship, and it knows no end. It represents being in a dead-end job, going to work on time, staying late, and still not having enough money to pay your bills. It represents changes and challenges within society where individuals are at the opposite ends of the seesaw. When one is up, the other one is down. And for me to be up, you have to be down. It represents a broken structure, a broken system, a broken society that says, I can't be down without you being up, and you can't be up without me being down. It represents all of those things. It represents loneliness. It represents mental disease in our country. It represents youth poverty and youth hunger. He was in the tomb. He was in an environment where there was no hope. There was no possibility. He was in it's kind of like having a car and the engine with no oil in it. I mean, it's just a matter of time. That sucker gonna lock up so quick. I mean, it's that kind of environment. It's not even the dripping oil in the driveway. Lazarus is past that stage. You know, your car drip a little oil for years. You know, my mother had a Mercedes, classic Mercedes, and I was driving that car, and there in Georgia, there's a highway called River Watch Parkway. And I knew it leaked a little oil, you know, no big deal. And I was driving. I must have been 21, 22 years of age. And, man, I'm driving that old Mercedes, and I'm just riding. And I probably, I don't know if I had to surmise, I'm probably going about 60 miles per hour. And, boy, I'm just riding. First time and last time this ever happened in my life, but I'm riding. And the engine locked up. And here I am on the side of the road in this Mercedes. Engine is locked up, and I said, my mama gonna kill me, you know. And here you are, is that type of environment. Here you are, is that type of situation. Here you are, is that type of moment in your life where things are locked up. Things are devastating bad in your life. But he went in the tomb. And I want you to know, God says, I want to get in your situation. I want to get in your life. I want to get in your condition, and I want to change it. I want you to hear this word. If you don't hear anything else, it's never too late for God to radically change your life. It's never too late for God to revitalize your situation. It's never too late for God to flip the script in your journey. It is never too late for God to pronounce and manifest an overflow breakthrough blessing in your life. It is never too late. You think about the restoration business. We take these cars and we break them all the way back down and we put them back together. Oftentimes individuals bring me a car and they say, hey, do you need to look at it? I don't need to look at it. I don't care what's wrong with it. I don't care if it doesn't have a chassis. I don't care if it doesn't have tires and rims. I don't care if you don't have the original chrome. I don't care if the aftermarket doesn't have the fenders or replacement doors. I don't care if you don't have the glass and there's no vendor on the market that has the glass. I don't care if the transmission is bad. I don't care if the engine is locked up. So therefore, I really don't need to see it, because there is no situation too difficult for my shop. Not one situation. Not I can't think of one body and paint condition that is so overwhelming we can't handle it. I can't compromise an electrical or a mechanical system that is so bad we cannot rectify it. I don't understand a chassis that is so dangerous, that is so haphazard, that there is no hope, there's no promise there. Now, we can do that as a shop. What do you think God can do? There is no situation. I don't care if it's drugs. I don't care if it's alcohol. I don't care if it's high-risk situations. I don't care if it's a hospital room. I don't care if it's COVID-19. I don't care if it's a societal structure that where you feel left out in. There's no circumstance, no condition, no situation that can overcome the choice of tomb love. And in this lesson, the son here representing you and I is Lazarus. And here, the father, just like now, is Jesus himself. And Jesus goes in the tomb. Now, where did Jesus come from? Jesus came from heaven. And the bounds of heaven, the glory of heaven, could not stop his love from coming into the earth. Now, for him to get into the earth, he had to tabernacle in the womb of a woman. And after he tabernacled, after he lived and dwelled in the womb of a woman, he had to then come out and be under the authority of a man in humanity. There's no boundary, there's no challenge, there's no circumstance that would make God say this is too hard, this is too difficult. And he didn't say that in Lazarus' case either. So now, before I go too deep into what tomb love is and why we're celebrating this love today, let's talk about love. We're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about real quick what love is, really quick, why love is important, and where tomb love is on display. Where tomb love is on display, why love is important, and what is love. All right, so there's 5 Greek words to describe love, and love is more like a prism than a single definition or a single thing that we can talk about. Over there in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, somewhere between verses 4 and 7, it talks about those 9 rays of light that help us all see a greater insight into this prism that we call love. But going a little bit further from a biblical perspective, there are 5 Greek words that formulate the foundation for love. And I think if we can learn to embrace these 5 words, if we can learn to walk out these 5 words, we can all operate in love, and we can easily identify when someone is bestowing love upon our lives. Because a lot of times individuals are masquerading hate in the light of love when really it's not love at all. So it's 5 things. One is called eros, and that's often the light of the enemy that the enemy will use so that we open up our heart and give our hearts to someone we should not give our hearts to because it feels good. See, what you're going to find out about tomb love does not feel good. It does not feel good for the one walking into the tomb, and it certainly does not feel good for the one in the tomb. So all of this feel-good love that we are moved by, all this Casanova love, all of this Cinderella type love, all of these love stories that are so poetic that moves us, that is not love. Now, I didn't say it's not an aspect of love, but it's not love. And so one of those aspects of love is called eros love. And eros love is a love that deals with touch, that deals with sensibility, that deals with the senses, that deals with the human need to have a high five from your daddy, the human need to have a low five from your daddy, the human need to have a pound and turn it and lock it in from your daddy, the human need to have your daddy put you in his headlock, wrap you in his arms, and you feel the masculinity of someone that bestows upon you true unconditional love. But that type of love has been perverted. That type of love has been used. That type of love has been a manipulative tool used. But that's not what love is. But eros is certainly a part of it if we're trying to gather and grasp what love is all about. Even in the restoration business, when we talk about cars and what cars I love, I like the Corvette. I like the movement on it. I like the slenderness of it. And I like when you crank it up. If it has something in it, I'm not going to have one that skip and tick now when you drive it. Sound like a little man hitting on hitting on a sign down there. No, I don't want that one. I want the one that rumbles. I want the one that rumbles. I want to hear that dual exhaust. I want to hit that gas. I just want to start it and just walk away from it a little bit and then come back. When I'm in a Corvette, I'm going down one of these back roads. I don't have the radio on. I just have me and that exhaust, and I hit that thing a little bit. It just feels good. It feels good to you. And if it happens to be a drop top and you can have that cool air blowing on you, come on, can you imagine that? That's Eros, though. All that's Eros love, but that's not love. Then there's another love called storge love. Now, storge love says, I will keep your secret. And one thing about a daddy, you can tell a daddy what's going on in your life, and he ain't going to tell your mama. Daddy will hold that truth. Daddy will hold that difficulty. Daddy will hold that weakness. That's that storge love. You can tell your daddy anything, and daddy will keep that with you. You can tell your daddy about your greatest heartbreak. You can tell your daddies about your greatest high in life. You can tell your daddy about your lowest moment in life. There is nothing like a daddy. And for those of you that are at home that say, my daddy died when he was young, my daddy is not that, I want you to know you have a daddy in Jesus. I want you to know that Jesus is an ever-present help in your life. Well, how can I connect and tell Jesus all about my story? Well, there's something called what? Prayer. And all you got to do is pick up that phone and say, Daddy Jesus, let me tell you what's going on in my life. Daddy, I'm tired. Daddy, I'm weak. Daddy, I don't know what to do next. Daddy, I need some money. That's a big daddy call. Daddy, do you have $100 I can borrow? Daddy, can you put $100 in my account? Well, you can literally have those real life conversations with Jesus. You say, well, what's the benefit of having those real life conversations with Jesus? I believe Jesus will open doors in your life. I asked God for a number this week. I asked God for an economic number in the midst of COVID-19. I committed to something, and I wanted God to financially move in my life and move in my situation as it pertained to that. And God did that just like I asked for. There's a preacher. His name is Michael Guido. Michael Guido talks about how he prayed. They didn't have any money. He was an evangelist in Meta, Georgia. He says he didn't have any money. He and his wife was in the car, and they prayed to Almighty God, God, can you give us some money? God, can you send us $20? And I'm paraphrasing the story. He said he was going up side of a mountain. It was turning. There was 18-wheeler in front of him. Said the 18-wheeler hit the brakes, stopped the traffic, came to his window, knocked on the window, pulled out $20 and said, God told me to give this to you. I said, what a story. Now, when I was young, I didn't believe that story. When I was young, there's no way God stopped traffic in the middle of a mountain, in a curvy mountain, to knock on your window and give you $20. I said, preacher, stop lying. But as I've grown and I've matured with God, I understand that when I talk to him and I share with him my secrets and my pains, he doesn't just keep my secrets. He manifests the solution to all my problems. There's a story about three little boys. These three little boys bragged on their daddy. They were saying which daddy had the most money, and they were trying to illustrate at one school event of how great their father was. So the contest was who was the richest dad. So one little boy said, my dad writes some words on a paper, and they call it a poem, and they give him $100. The little boy said, well, my daddy writes some words on a page. And when he writes those words on a page, they give my daddy $100. The last little boy said, well, if y'all think that's something, my daddy takes some words and write it on a paper, and he called it a sermon. And they give him so much money, it takes 6 or 8 people to take it up, So we have all these things of bragging about how good our daddy is. But I want you to know there's no earthly father. It wasn't my Uncle Bobby. It's certainly not me as a father. And it's not your human father, even if he's a great father. I want you to know that God is greater than all of those men that we hold dear and in esteem for being ever present in our lives. He's greater than them all. And that's Father Jesus. And in this story, he goes in that tomb. So you have Eros love, you have storge love, then you have phileo love. What's phileo love? Phileo love says what? If you scratch my back, I'll do what? I'll scratch your back. So it has that phileo love. Then there's a fourth love. It's called epithemia. And epithemia is the love of a hunter. So many days we've seen that, in the courtship, some women will play hard to get. And the man who has that hunter instinct, he wants to hunt even harder. Because there's something about goal-oriented love. And when we see here that God, in the person, the personality, the presence of his son, Jesus Christ, God has a goal when he gets to the tomb. See, that's what's so powerful about this tomb love. The goals of the tomb love is so much different from the other loves of life. The goals of tomb love, says, I'm going in there so that you might live. Womb love says, I go there so I might be near you. I go there so that you will know, even in your absence, that mama loves you. There was a deer bouncing around here the other day, and I wondered why that deer was here. We live in an area where there's plenty of deer, but I saw that deer, and I couldn't understand why that doe was there. She's just standing there looking alert. And boldness. I got close with the tractor, and she really didn't run. Then when I got closer, she ran, but then she looked back like she had. I couldn't figure it out. So my daughter and I, we kept cutting grass. And we got in one area. My daughter said, Dad, there's something in those bushes. Look in those bushes. Certainly it's a snake, Look in those bushes, and it's Bambi. I see this baby deer, and I put it all together. I said, Mama looking for her. See, there's nothing like Mama's love. And when we talk about Daddy's love, it's not to overshadow and discredit Mama's love, but we must understand Daddy's love is a little bit different. Daddy's love moves in a most peculiar way. And so what Daddy does, he has a goal that you will be who you are called to be. Whether it takes force, you're going to be who you're supposed to be. You're going to do what you're supposed to do. You're going to have glory in your life. You're going to have a manifestation of promise in your life. We're going to preach it to you. We're going to teach it to you. We're going to coach it to you. We're going to use all of our passion, and that's who we're celebrating today. We're celebrating God in the masculinity. We're celebrating God in men, God in fathers, God who forces that very thing out of us, that very greatness that's in us all, and Jesus is that great Father. So there is a goal, and epithemia love has a goal. Well, Jesus had a goal. When Jesus says, show me where he is. Now, Jesus, the divine, Jesus, God himself, knew exactly where he was. He knew exactly his condition. He knew everything about Lazarus at that very moment, because in the spirit, he'd never taken his eyes off of him. He's never left him. But in his humanity, he spoke. The man side of the God side says, where is he? Teaching us all what tomb love does. Tomb love uses the epithemia, the love of a hunter that said, I'm going to go get my son. I'm going to go find my son. I'm going to go find my child. And when I get there, he will live again. I'm not going to put a flower on the wreath. I'm not going there to tell him things are going to be all right. I'm not just going there to tell him I love him. I'm going there to get Lazarus. And I'm going there to bring Lazarus out of this situation. Then that fifth Greek word that represents love is called agape love. And that agape love says, when you can't do anything for me, when you are unworthy of the goodness that I bestow your way, that tomb love says, I will seek your face. I will love you. I will produce good in your life. I will bring about good in your life. That's what that love says. That agape love. What could Lazarus do for Jesus? Nothing. But he presses there for him anyway. How could Jesus have been repaid by Lazarus when Lazarus was dead? I mean, whether he tithed or didn't tithe, he can't pay Jesus back for giving him his life. And that's what agape love does. It goes beyond. But those 5 terms are what I believe constitutes love. And they're not just some utopian idea. These are true aspirations that we as believers can receive in our lives. It's love, not hate. It's love that says, I want you to produce the best in your life. It's a goal-oriented love. It's a touching love. It's a love of a tender talk. There's a later portion in the scripture. Jesus says, Lazarus, come forth. Can you hear the arrows come out of there? Then he told to the grave clothes, loose the man and let him go. Can you hear that thing? And then in verse 35 of 11 of John, which is the shortest verse in the King James Bible, it says Jesus wept. Well, why did he weep? Because there was no hope. Why did he weep? Because Lazarus was in a state and in a condition where Jesus couldn't help him. Martha believed Jesus couldn't help. Mary believed Jesus couldn't help. So now you go to verse 36. And the people say when they saw Jesus walk in the tomb, and can you picture this man? We're talking about tomb love. Tomb love stays firm, is hard, but it cries. Tomb love is the only love that can be rock hard like a bicep, rock hard chest muscles, but yet I cry. Tomb love is the only love that walks like He-Man, but cries and tears rolling down the face. It is the embodiment of power and tenderness and one vessel in a way that boggles your mind and makes you say, Abba, that's my daddy. And so Lazarus' daddy walks in with tears in his eyes. We're talking about a real father. You know, the type of father that when you leave home, the girls cry. They cry because they want their daddy at home. So I went into the office late on last night to do some paperwork, and it was pretty late. And so I'm there trying to get some last-minute things out for counting. But anyway, so I'm getting some last-minute things out. I've been procrastinating all year. So I'm getting some last-minute things out, and my phone rings. It's late. And my daughter say, where are you? I say, I'm at the office. Come on home, Daddy. Come on, we're waiting on you. That's that love. That's that energy that we're celebrating today. That's that love of great men. And I want you to reach out to the great men that you know. And I want you to tell them, thank you for being a man who operates in tomb love. Last thing I see in this story, Jesus did heal Lazarus. He did change Lazarus' life, and he changed everybody's lives there. And the masculinity of this tomb love does a few things in this lesson that I think we should all do. First thing that it does, it takes personal responsibility. See, in that 36th verse, they says, if he had been here, might he saved him. But Jesus took the responsibility, even though it was beyond their human comprehension of what was possible. Responsibility in a man of God, responsibility in a true father, it responds. Responds what? Responds to whatever is necessary. You know, when I used to play sports and play football, I didn't bench a whole lot. And but individuals would say, how much you bench? I said, I can bench anything they grab me. Anything they put their hands on me, I can bench that. You know, we used to say that. And that's what a father can do. He doesn't sit down and bench press 315 and 225 and 500. He doesn't bench press that. But I tell you one thing about a father. He can bench press anything that touches him. Any financial storm that touches his child, that father can bench press that. Any no good, low down, now I'm just speaking this way in the future if it ever happened. Any low down, no good man that want to date or deal with my daughter, I can bench press any problem he may present in the lives of my children, because daddy ain't having it. Now, y'all document this, put on the calendar. I said this way in advance. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be. You know, I had a neighbor. He had a daughter, and he told the little boy, he said, little boy, listen, let me tell you something. I don't mind going back to prison. I just want you to know, I don't mind. If you keep bothering my daughter, I will be going back. It responds. It doesn't say, oh, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know. See, a father, all you got to do is get him on the line. See, all you got to do is get that on. That's why it is so devastating when we look at the penal system and we look at the sentences that they're giving men primarily. And it doesn't matter if it's black man, white man, Hispanic man. Now, we know proportionately it is out of control when you start talking about black men and Hispanic men. It is proportionally is out of control. And not just the amount of arrest, but the length of sentences. I mean, how can you give somebody a sentence that's a football score? And now they're giving out basketball scores. You know, a basketball game is in the 60s and in the 100s. You know, we scored 120 points. And how can you give somebody, sit on the bench, and give a human being time beyond their entire life expectancy, that if they could go back in the womb and be born again, they would still be in prison? Y'all think about that. So if you give a man 100 years and the man is 40, the man could go back in the womb, come out the womb, and he'll still be in prison. He'll be born in prison, and he'll die again in prison. It's so devastating. Why? Because there is no daddy there. There's no tomb love there. And we have a world, we have a nation that's acquainted with womb love. But we need to become acquainted with that masculinity of love, with that troublesome love, with that you don't want none of that kind of love, with that here comes daddy. A friend of mine sent me a quote and talks about a man, and said a real man, a real brother, a real father. He the type of man that when he wake up in the morning and his feet hit the floor, the devil go, oh hell, he up. We got to deal with him today. That done daddy. See, that's what anybody out there know what I'm talking about. I saw a preacher, Cheney in Las Vegas, and I've watched some of his live feeds. Now, I must admit, Cheney, I don't know all the messages now, so I ain't listening that long. But you know what moved me? Every time I see him, I see these two little boys. And the smallest boy try to talk like his daddy. You know, I saw him do an appeal, to all those out there and all those individuals out there and all those individuals that are listening. But I mean, it just moved me that daddy impresses upon that son in such a way. There was another day they were riding in a classic. Y'all know I like classics. So they was in an old school Caddy. Must have been an early 90s model. Can y'all figure that? So they riding in the Cadillac. Daddy in the back seat of the Cadillac with the gangster lean. Well, I don't know if he had no gangster lean, but you know what I'm saying. He was in the back seat of the Cadillac. His oldest boy was driving. His youngest boy was recording. You see that thing? Isn't that something? A powerful thing. Oldest boy driving. Youngest boy recording. And daddy talking. The powerful, powerful story and the illustration of daddy. An illustration of a father. That same preacher, Cheney, I met remember when he started preaching, he and I both kind of started around the same time. But anyway, I met his dad in South Carolina. Never forget, go up to the old man Cheney, shake his hand, share with him. And he say, preacher, it's rough out here in these streets. I don't know, streets. I said, what streets? We're in church now. We down at the altar. I just met him. I'm shaking his hand, and we have a visit. He said, preacher, it's rough in these streets. You be careful now. What streets? Man, these church streets. And rubbing these church streets, man. Don't let them get you. And but just so can you see that lineage of your father? So the father was a preacher pastor, the son a preacher pastor, and now he has his son's name. I mean, it's something about a daddy. Sometimes I hear my daughter pray, and she get finished praying, and at the end she'll say, and they all said, amen. I say, you got that one from your daddy. You know, there's something unique about that. But I can also remember, we're talking about tomb love now. I can also remember a Sunday where I had her pray. And she acted like she didn't understand how to pray. So service was over. I said, baby, meet me in my office. So now she got to come in the tomb. So then she comes in the office and we have a real conversation. A real conversation where she cries. And she cried. And I talked to her about the importance of communication with God. And that the powerful tool she has right there within her, that she can always have a direct line to God. And that when we pick up that telephone, we must be careful. We must choose to have an intimate moment with him. So she cries, and then we go and we start practicing on how to pray. I said, now stand up a little bit differently. I mean, you thought we was at basketball practice. You know, get in triple stance, you know, get in the ready position. All right, this is the shooting form, you know, because we teach kids all kinds of things. We teach them how to ride horses. We teach them how to shoot a basketball. We teach them how to run a football. We teach them all kinds of things. Teach them all kinds of things. We even try to teach them how to cheerlead, even though most of us, they never did it. But we will try to teach them how to walk in high-heel shoes if we can. But you know what we don't do? We don't teach them how to pray. So, because I want to be able to respond in her life, and I understand that there are some situations in her life, and I got to get out of here, that I won't be able to respond to, but I've given her another tool that will always respond in her life. That's the tool called what? Prayer. So we're talking about fathers today. We're celebrating fathers. We're celebrating men. We're celebrating goodness. So the masculinity of the tomb love is ready to respond. But not only does the tomb love respond, the tomb love has ownership. Jesus owned Lazarus' moment as if it was his very own. One thing about a daddy, you can never shame him. You can never shame daddy to the point that daddy ain't gonna claim you. You can never shame, not a real daddy. Them old fake daddies you can. Them old $3 bill daddies, you can do all that to them $3 bill daddies. You know, they don't feel good for 5 minutes, daddy gone. But a real daddy, oh no, man, you can't marry the right one and you can't marry the wrong one. Because daddy's still going to be there. Even when he know this ain't going to work out. It's just going to be a few more minutes. Friend of mine, and I heard Cuomo mention this again, but a friend of mine said, well, you know, when my daughter dating somebody, and I can't stand like who she dating now, I just tell him, I like him too, baby. Because if you say you don't like him, she going to do everything and she can to make it work. But a father takes ownership of that situation. He takes ownership of their children. And that's what we celebrate. You know, I go back to my uncle. I spent a lot of time in his company and in his care. I mean, we go fishing. I ain't buy anything. I ain't buy my own poles. I ain't buy no bait. I didn't do anything. I didn't go meet him. He picked me up. We go fishing. These things just, why? He felt ownership, I would think. I didn't ask him. But his behavior says he felt ownership about his nephew. He understood that my father went on to be with the Lord at an early age. So he felt an ownership, and I'm going to show that this is my problem. This is my child, and I will invest in his life. And we're not talking about mere money. We're talking about character. And I will discipline him. You talk about something that put fear in my heart and in my cousin. All my uncle had to do was look at us crazy. We all were in fear. And the last thing is, a father's always operating with integrity. You know, that real there. He's always operating responsibility, ownership, and integrity. He's always going to have integrity as it pertains to his children. See, the father is the one that you can ask the most difficult question to. And he's going to give you the integrity, and he's going to say, I don't know. You know, most of the time when someone asks me a question, I give you an answer pretty quick. Individuals ask me questions about cars all the time. Like when you're a car builder, you're supposed to know everything. Every make and model, every single piece. I mean, nobody knows everything. But they expect you to know everything like that, And most car builders can give a pretty good answer about something to satisfy that moment. But you know what I tell my children? I don't know. They'll ask me a question that I do not know. I owe them the integrity of a real answer. And my answer is often, baby, I don't know. 2 minutes later, Daddy, what about the stars, the moon, the planes, or this and that? Baby, I don't know. And that will go on for hours. And I'll listen to every question. And unless I'm really, really tired, I won't tell them to stop asking me questions. Why? Because I want them to know Daddy going to always listen. He going to always give you the right answer. Even if the right answer in the moment is, I don't know. Celebrating fathers out there. Celebrating fathers everywhere. Y'all, I'm out of here. But I'm celebrating those men that are teaching these girls and these boys the right way. Celebrating great men. Celebrating in his absence as he's gone on to be with the Lord. Kobe Bryant, who, though he was a great basketball player, at the end of his life, we saw that he was all about being a dad. And he even said he was a girl dad. What a powerful story, When you can make an impact and you choose to make an impact in the lives of your children. So yesterday we were out riding. We went and got some barbecue. And we social distance. We had our mask on and all that stuff. So we're going to get some barbecue. And we're riding. And this happens all the time. But it was just a moment in our pause. So here we are, sitting there. I think we're on 14-8 making a left. And a truck comes. And Anna, normally, that's how it starts. Daddy, there's a classic. And Julia, where? I don't even say anything most of the time. Look. And Julia said, oh, it's a truck. And I say, isn't it pretty? It's green. So then Matilda says, ooh, that's nice. And Anna says, ooh, that thing pretty. So then I cut my eye over there and I go, it's all right. Something special that when that is interesting to the daddy begins to infect the family. That's what it's about. And that's when you know real responsibility, ownership, and integrity is on display in your life when they start liking what you like. God bless you. Hey, thank y'all for joining me today. If you got an old car out there, don't throw it away. Don't burn it up. Why not